All right. Hello, everyone. We have a wonderful tasting tonight. I'm Scott Frazier with Naples Bourbon Society. We've got special guest Alex Toomey with Ragged Branch Distillery. We have Ann, who's our executive bourbon steward with Naples Bourbon Society, and also we have PJ as part of the Naples Bourbon Society. We have a great event lined up tonight. Tastings of some of the best bourbons, not only in the country, in Virginia. I couldn't be more proud of Alex and what he's done. So in order to get you ramped up for tonight, let me kick off this little intro video of Ragged Branch.
Once you tell somebody that you're thinking about marrying, I'm going to make whiskey, and you tell all these people around, I'm going to make whiskey, and Russell tells all his partners, I'm going to make bourbon whiskey, you have to make bourbon whiskey.
Here at Ragged Branch, when we grind our grain, we cook it, we distill it, we age it, and we bottle it. Our product and our process is really part of Albemarle County. And that sourcing of our crops here gives our product a taste of Central Virginia. So when you're here at Ragged Branch, and you're overlooking our beautiful view, and you're taking a sip of our Virginia Straight Bourbon Whiskey, you're really experiencing a true taste of the Commonwealth.
I'll never forget the feeling when I saw that clear liquid run out of the top of that still first time. I mean, it was real exciting.
You know, it hasn't been easy to get to this particular point and doing it in the way that we've done it. But that's really what our brand is about. You know, it's about authenticity, integrity, patience, and really hard work throughout the process.
It's not in my nature to say, oh, we just couldn't get it done. We always get it done. We always get it done right. We get it done right now.
All right. So I couldn't be more proud of Alex. Let's do a kind of around the table here. Let's take a moment to let everybody introduce themselves. Let's go with you, Alex, first.
Alex Toomey, Ragged Branch. That's an old video. I'm a little lighter since then.
Ann.
Hey, Ann Frazier here, Executive Bourbon Steward, Bourbon Enthusiast, proud Virginian, and thank you, Alex, for joining us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
And I'm PJ Baimonte. I'm a proud Floridian, but also a proud connoisseur of the distilled. What are we calling it? The spirit of America, the American spirit, American spirit.
That's right. So tonight we've got we're going to drink 4 bourbons. I think we'll kick this off with Alex. We'll start with you want to start with the signature first?
No, let's start with the weeded first.
Okay, the weeded?
Yeah, that's what we first started making.
All right.
Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, talk about it. Talk about how you made it, the mash bill, if you want, the double gold medal.
This bourbon, it's a weeded bourbon, 17% wheat. This particular batch, it depends on what batch you're on. I pick barrels between 4 and 3 months and 5 years old for these batches. This is the first bourbon we started making, and it was basically because Pickerel, ended up at Maker's Mark when we first started talking to him, David Pickerel, who was our master distiller. So we started making a weeded bourbon at the beginning, and that's what this is. And when I'm picking these barrels, I'm looking for that big front end wheat flavor, and I'm not crazy about having a lot of burn on the back. So I'm drinking batch 11, which I don't think is in Florida yet, but I really like it. So it's 90 proof. It's a 53-gallon barrel. This was a 3-char barrel or barrels.
I smell Virginia grass.
I was going to say, Alex, I'm really impressed with the color. I believe this is a 4-year-old product.
Well, there's a lot of 5-year-old barrels in there. You know, when I pick in barrels, I pick good barrels. I don't get hung up on the age of them. You know, I just want to make sure it's when I pick a barrel, it has to have that front end wheat flavor. If it has that front end wheat flavor, it's going in the tank.
So I think
I like this one. I like the linger. Go ahead,
yeah,
PJ.
and I think you said it perfect. I think you said it perfectly. When I initially tried this, my first thought was aggressive at the front and then smoothed out all the way through the finish.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say the same thing. I really like the way this kind of dances kind of mid palate and then continues on. So it's a nice sip. It's a nice smooth sipper. And I just want to remind our Naples Bourbon Society members that this is available at our local Publix right now. So definitely get out and get yourself a bottle because it's good. It's a great value and it's a decent, really good bourbon. So good job, Alex.
Well, thank you. And this one won double gold at San Francisco in 2020 in the craft distillery class, straight bourbon up to 5 years old, I think it was.
So Alex, can you tell us as we enjoy this one, before we move on to the next one, can you tell us a little bit about the process of how we saw a little bit in the video, but how it all came about of you getting into the whole bourbon industry here? I know this wasn't your background.
No, it wasn't. You know, it's a long story, but I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I'm less than zero, and we were just joking around. And I was a developer and a builder. I was a carpenter by trade, and in the downturn, I always raised cattle. I had a cattle farm. My dad had one. We always had cattle on these neighborhoods that we were developing before we built the roads. And so when we're sitting in my horse barn and we're talking about what in the world are we going to do? I mean, you know, there's no work. And one of my partners and my building partner says, why don't we just go make whiskey up in the hollow? You know, just joking around, you know, we're having cocktails. And it just stuck with me, you know, and we're pretty accomplished guys and getting things done. So I started doing the research on what it would take to get a license. And everybody was hung up on bonding. And when we do neighborhoods, we're bonding neighborhoods for millions of dollars. So the bonding was a cakewalk. So I just had it. I kind of was looking at it and fiddling around, and then one night I was watching the History Channel, and there was a show on a series. I think it was called American Whiskeys on the History Channel, Modern Marvels, and there was a guy on there named David Pickerel, and when they shot the series, he was still at Maker's Mark. And so the next day, I just called him up. I found his number, and I said, hey, I'm in Virginia. I'm thinking about making bourbon. I don't know anything. Do you know anybody that could help us? And he goes, I'm just retired from Makers, and I'd love to help you. And so my son and I drove up to Kentucky. We met him at a hotel. And we talked for 2 hours, and I'm trying to take notes as fast as he's talking, and I can't do it. I mean, he's like a walking pro forma of the bourbon, and I'm really excited about it. He makes it sound like it's the easiest thing in the world, And so I come back to Virginia, and I catch up with 2 of my buddies that I know to be interested in doing this, and I said, hey, I've got this idea. And they go, I'm in. So it was Chris Sarpy and Russell Nance. And so I said, we decided to fly Pickerel up here for a couple of days to talk, look at the farm, and see what we're going to do. I mean, we know nothing about this. So he flies in, and it was February in 2009, I think. and he gets snowed in, 22 inches of snow that night. And he, we're farmers. I mean, I still got to feed the cattle. I have to do everything that I normally do. And so he gets snowed in for 4 days, and we go to the ABC store and we buy all these bourbons he tells us to buy, and we put them out on the table, and we start tasting them. He knows everything about every bourbon we have. He knows who made it, why it tastes like it does, how many years it was, what bourbon is this bourbon, where this bourbon came from. They didn't make it. And at the end, he asked, well, what do you guys want to make? And for us, it seemed logical to make something close to Maker's Mark. I mean, that's pretty successful. So we decided to go with a wheated bourbon. And then it took us, after that meeting, everybody was in, it took us a long time for the bad economy to shake off of us. I was getting a divorce. My partner was getting a divorce. We had a bunch of stuff going on. And it took us a long time. And Pickerel hung in there. And David Pickerel ordered all the equipment for us. And it showed up, at this barn I built. And I look at it, there's pieces of stuff everywhere. And I said, there is no way in hell I'm going to be able to figure this out. And so we just started putting it together. And he was off doing different deals at that point, because this was in 2013, September 2013. All this stuff shows up at the barn. And I just started putting it together with some pipe fitters and some electricians. And then we had a hiccup with the license, and then he showed up on July of 14, and we made mash that day. And then we had some issues when we worked out some recipes, and the first recipe we were making was this wheated bourbon. He came in, he knew what we had a barrel we're going to release. That while he was here making whiskey, I mean, he cooked the mash, he managed the fermentation, he distilled it, and then he barreled it. And we got the full David Pickerel experience, and we learned all our fundamentals from him. And at the end of the day, it's all about fundamentals and having confidence, and we've gained that through having such an amazing guy help us out. So that's how we got started.
Alex, one of the pieces in that clip I absolutely love, and I want you to expand on it a little bit, is tell us about when you first saw the liquid come off that still for the first time.
I just couldn't believe it. It's just you can't believe the amount of work that went into it. You can't believe the hell I've gone through to get to just white liquid. I'm not brown yet. I'm just white. And when it came off, I still have a video of it somewhere in Pickerel's. There it is. That's your first distillate. And I just can't. I was giddy about it. It was amazing. And it's just like watching your kid be born, kind of.
Yeah. So real quick, if I bring up this photo,
yeah.
Tell us if someone were to come for a distillery tour or visit the property, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the house back up on the hill is our tasting room, the White House.
Right.
So we haven't been doing tours since COVID, but you can pop in now. The distillery's in the middle down at the bottom with the red roof, and the little offset next to it is what we call Hunt Camp. And that's where we hang out, and that's where my office is. And when the tasting room's not open, we sell bottles and beef out of there. And then the middle is the distillery, and off to the right is our rick barn. Yeah, that's inside the rick barn. Yep.
I think I would live.
We have an amazing taste room. the tasting room, well, we have 800 acres right down the road from here. So I really didn't want to stay at where we are. I wanted to sell this place and then go to the other place and move everything. And I want to change a couple things. So I built this house on this property as basically a spec house to try to sell the property, because the views from this patio are just as good as there are on Earth. And so I built the house and it didn't sell. So then I had moved into it and covered the entrance, had the interest on it. And then as our bourbon started coming brown, I went around to some tasting rooms and I told my partners, I said, guys, we're going to have to change the house into the tasting room. And the good thing about the tasting room, I didn't think about it at the time, but when you drive up to our tasting room, you realize, man, these guys aren't playing around. I mean, this is for real. So that's where you can get the tastings.
It's absolutely beautiful. I imagine it's all covered in white right now, though. I understand you got some snow up there.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
We'll just stay warm. Well, bourbon's good, so I think we should move on to the double oak. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. I'm about to dump this one out. The double oak is really good. It's very popular. We for a while we did it.
So we got the weeded one, right, Scott? Weeded one.
Yeah, the double. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So when we first started, I just was not going to go white. We were not going to sell vodka. We're not going to sell gin. We're going to be straight bourbon whiskey. We're not going to be anything. And Pickerel's backed me up on that. And so my other two partners, who happened to be the money guys, said, well, and Pickerel said, well, let's put some whiskey. Let's put 50 barrels in 25-gallon barrels. And that way we can come out with some 2-year whiskey and try to generate some money. And it was a great idea for a lot of reasons. We worked out the logistics of getting in a bottle. We didn't like our first label. We were able to change that. We opened some avenues of distribution. The bad thing is that 2-year whiskey wasn't our best product, and that was a mistake. And so instead of selling all that, and if you noticed in the video, that's what those labels were, was the 2-year product. And so what we did was Pickerel came and tasted it, and he goes, you know what? Let's just take it on to 4 years. Let's dump it all out of these 25-gallon barrels and put it in a 4-char 53 and let it go another couple years. So that's how we started double oak and the weeded. And that extra barrel really adds a depth to it. It's very nice. A lot of barrel on it, but a lot of that 4-char adds a lot of, I think, the sweet flavors on the front end of it.
Are all the barrels charred at 4?
All the double oak barrels are charred at 4. And actually, I switched a while ago. I did some experiment. I'm switching everything to 4-char from now on. I find that the 4-char barrels have a nicer aroma. They add a candied front end flavor that I love. And so after doing a lot of this double oak, I want to make that our weeded bourbon, more like the double oak. So I'm putting it all in 4-chars now.
Well, it is nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
Yeah, this is really nice. I do enjoy this one. And it's nice to see you coming out with a double oak product too.
Yeah. Double oak weeded is real popular. I like it. And I love how it adds that front end weeded flavor. It just adds something to the front of that. And again, if you taste this, you can see the barrels I'm picking. I'm picking big front end flavors, try to avoid burn on the back.
I mean, it's got great color. It's got, I mean, you would think it's an 8-year. I mean, it's.
What barrel number did you have, Ann?
We got batch. Oh, this is bottle 60. This is barrel 1143.
Oh, that's a great barrel.
Oh, wow. I think so too. Thank you.
Yeah. That barrel is what we're sending off to San Francisco this year.
Oh, our future award winner, right?
Yeah, I hope so. It won gold last year. And I don't recall the class, though. But it was.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, Alex? The process of getting into a wine and spirits competition like that, and what that really means to win a gold, double gold, silver.
Well, we had a guy show up here to do some barrel picks, and he owned New Orleans Bourbon Fest, and he does barrel picks for that. And so he showed up here to do a barrel pick, and he was tasting through the barrels, and he goes, "Alex, you got to get some hardware hanging on these bottles. I mean, this is good whiskey." And I said, "Okay, well, what should we enter?" And I'm talking about, I'm ignorant about this. Okay. I mean, and he goes, the best one is San Francisco. And I said, well, then we'll enter that one. So I didn't think anything of it. And then this guy I was working here said, hey, it's time to send these bottles to San Francisco. So, I mean, you literally just get the list, you enter the classes, and I just pulled bottles off the shelf and sent them to San Francisco. And then I didn't know if they were going to have it because of COVID. They try it in March, and everybody's crazy in March about it. And then I got this email that we'd won a bunch of awards. I mean, we won double gold, 2 golds, and 2 silvers, 3 silvers. I mean, we didn't get anything under. And you know what? And the reason the silvers, we're in the wrong class. we entered the wrong class. Now we got it figured out. This year, I got it. I understand. So, but that straight rye whiskey, the straight rye whiskey is a hard class because that's it. It's not straight rye whiskey 5 years or 10 years. It's just straight rye whiskey. And so you're up against every straight rye in the world. We got silver in that class. So it was a lot of fun getting it, and I didn't realize what a big deal it was at the time, and then I started figuring it out pretty quick, and so I'm really proud of it. And I entered again. I actually entered. I'm real excited about this. This is a Virginia wine finished 5-year-old straight whiskey that I didn't want to do because I don't like doing this hippie stuff. And my son was buddies with a vineyard right down the road called Veritas, and he wanted to trade us some French oak barrels for bourbon barrels. And I had some weird whiskey that I didn't know what to do with, and it was 5 years old, but it didn't have the same flavor profiles I was looking for. And then so Josh, my son, says, well, let's put this in these French oak barrels. And I'm telling you what, it is outstanding. So that's going to San Fran this year.
Well, you're making me salivate. I love this. And I'm curious, the winery down the road, are they going to finish their wine in your bourbon barrels? Because they're doing that in the wine industry now, too.
I guess. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know.
So I'm sharing at the bottom. So if anybody's interested, they can order stuff from Potomac Wine and Spirit, correct?
That's correct. That went live today.
Okay.
And I'm just going to show for the folks here again in Naples. This is a picture of the bottle here of the double gold winner that you can get at our local Publix. So please, check it out. It is really good.
So, so that's the double oaked wheated. Now I'm taking, because we only had a few of those 25-gallon barrels. Now we're going in the Rick barn, and I'm taking I'm taking a group of barrels that turn 4 years old, and we're dumping them into a tank, and then we're putting them in a new 4-char for our double oak wheated. So it's going 53 to 53. I'm not sure what your barrel was, but the one I'm drinking here is 53 to 53.
So I'm gonna say, I know you mentioned with the first whiskey, the first bourbon, that you didn't like that burn at the end. Somehow you've accomplished something that's smooth up front. You get that real nice tingly feeling on your lips. You get the bourbon burn on your tongue, but somehow it doesn't burn going down. I don't know how you accomplished that, but that's pretty amazing.
The barrels that burn on the back get double oaked, and then that 4-char will mellow that out. But I really don't like that. And then when you're tasting bourbon and you're just starting out tasting bourbon, and you got pickerel, and then pickerel dies on us, you know, and then I had a really accomplished distiller show up here. And I can't say his name because he had a confidentiality agreement. But I mean, this is one that everybody in the world would know, this distillery. And he's here, and he's looking. And he helped us with a couple of things. And he said, Alex, you're doing it right. If you won't drink it, nobody will drink it. So you make these batches the way you like them. And he said, always remember, it's all about good distillate in is good distillate out. And that's what I live by.
Alex, tell our group about tell us about your farm and how you're doing basically farm to just farm to table.
Yeah. So we one of my good buddies is the largest grain grower in Virginia. He farms 22,000 acres. And I always had a cattle background. So in the beginning, it was just about economics. It's like, okay, Kevin has the planter, he has the combine, he has the grain dryer and cleaner, you know, and I've got a bunch of cows. And so, but I mean, what ends up happening is, and we're recycling our water. Again, that's for economic reasons because you don't want to heat the water twice. So, I mean, we're totally sustainable. So Kevin comes out, we grow a lot of grain on 800 acres down the street. And then he grows a rye, which I'll give you a little teaser. He grows a rye on the ground where Secretariat was born in Doswell. So we got that. We got some fun stuff coming out with that later. So he's just a buddy of mine who's growing this crop and has this equipment, and he spills more grain on the ground than we use in a year, you know. And so he brings the grain, and then the whole idea of having free cattle feed when Pickerel was here was, you know, enticing to me. I used to ride cutting horses and compete, and I'd keep steers, you know, the practice on or heifers or whatever we had at the time. So, you know, getting cattle feed free every day was part of our deal. So I know there's no mystery that you grow a crop, you make whiskey, and then you feed it to agricultural animals. The difference is we do it all. You know, we do every step of the process. So, and I was very proud. One of the nicest things David Pickerel said about us is he goes, "You're the hardest working distillers I know." You know, we weren't chemists. You know, we weren't rich. I particularly wasn't a rich guy, but you know what? We always were hard workers. And so that I think that shines through in our product and the way we do it in our beef.
And if anybody wanted to order beef from Florida, can they do that?
Not right now. I mean, it's cost so much to ship it. You know, I have enough beef to do it. We have to find a distributor down there, which we're in the beginning of doing. You know, we're sponsoring a fishing tournament called Meat Mayhem that goes a lot of locations in Florida, and I'm going to have our beef at the one at St. Augustine's. You know, so but right now we do have a strong presence of beef in Louisiana because I have the place that ships it down there and then delivers it to other places. And I haven't established that in Florida yet.
Okay. All right.
Well, Alex, what
Sounds
I'm
like a
hearing
great
so far is that you can get into the bourbon business if you know nothing, if you have determination, you just reach out and follow your dreams, and you work hard, you can create a great product.
And stay broke.
Stay broke. Well, we're going to try to change that tonight.
Yeah, I told my partners, I said, how bad could it be? It's like, just think about we're going back to college for another 4 years, waiting on this whiskey. You know, the going to college the first time flew by, right? The second education is not so fast. So,
But think of all the friends you've made in the process.
oh yeah, I say that all the time. Great bourbon makes great friends. There's no doubt about that.
Amen.
We ready to move on to the third?
Yep. So this is our signature. All we did was we pulled out the 17% wheat and we added 17% rye. Now this is my personal favorite. And I'll tell you the story behind how we're making this. So we're making wheated bourbon, and I'm dating this old girl, and we're having dinner with Dave at my house, and she goes, you know, I just don't like Maker's Mark. And I'm like, well, that's what we're making. And Dave goes, well, you know, Alex, you might be a good idea for you to have, you know, another bourbon. And it wouldn't be hard. We have everything in place. And so I planted a bunch of rye here at the distillery. And after we harvested, I called Dave and I said, okay, we've got this rye ready. Let's do it. And so we ended up gave me the kind of the instructions over the phone, and my son and I worked it out down in the distillery. So this particular, all of our signature whiskey is 5+ years old, 53-gallon barrel. And I'm so glad we did. Our signature sells about 2 to 1 to our wheated, and then it does have a spice on the front, and but it's very pleasant. I love it.
I agree. I think this is delicious. This was easy one just to sit around the fire or with friends and enjoy all night. You know, it's not too hot. Goes down really nice.
Yeah. So
we must have very similar taste, because that's exactly when I first tried each of these. There's definitely notes of the other that are strong, and I would take like a single glass of a nice bourbon, but this is the one that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go walk out on the patio and I'm just gonna sip this one, and I can sip this one all night long without ever getting tired of it.
Well, I tell you what I do with it. I put this, you know, I'm a volume drinker, so I watch how much I'm drinking. So, I mean, I drink a whole glass of this, but I love this with diet ginger ale. Love it. I drink it. The guys that work for me, when we go anywhere, they make sure there's diet ginger ale and a bottle of signature there, because that's what I like.
So if we have any Moscow Mule fans out there, this might be just the bourbon to make your Moscow Mule cocktail with.
I may or may not have some ginger beer and ginger ale over that I'm seriously, if I wasn't on camera, I might be sneaking over there to grab.
Yeah, so I'm happy that turned out very nice. So actually, I'll go ahead and tell the story. The next one you're going to try, and it's hard to get into Publix anyway. To get 2 SKUs in Publix was almost unbelievable for us. Then when we got that news, but then to add another SKU like the double oak wheated or the double oak signature is really hard to do. So I'm hoping that now eventually, we have an exclusive deal with Publix for 2 years where our bourbon in Florida, the only place you can get it's Publix. And at the end of that 2 years, when we're at different stores around Florida, they'll have our whole lineup. I'm going to try to get them to take at least the double oak wheated at Publix as soon as I can. But anyway, that's why all of them aren't there. Now, when we had orders for this signature and it just come 4 years old, and I only had 3 barrels coming for, and so we bottled it, and I was really busy that day, and I didn't get a chance to taste it. And so at the end of the bottling, which is kind of hectic for us anyway, Armando puts a bottle on the counter at Hunt Camp, and I go in and I take a sip of it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. And I start freaking out. I say, we're going to dump all this. I ordered some 4-char barrels right away. Talked to some people, and I went ahead right away the next day. The next 2 days, I got barrels from Kentucky, and I dumped barrels out and put 8 barrels in 4-char and let it go. So there's a guy shows up at the farm, and he owns a distillery in Virginia, and he just wants to talk to me about how I got into Louisiana. And we're walking through our rick barn, and there's like 4 pallets of whiskey there. And I said, I'm about to dump all this out and age it longer. It's not very good. And so he goes, well, let me try it. I'm interested in trying it. And so I opened a bottle, and we took a sip right out of the bottle. And he goes, man, there's nothing wrong with this whiskey. This is great whiskey. And I was like, you're right. It turns out Armando had put the filter swill in a bottle and left it on my desk. So I was wigging out about this whiskey, already double oaked, 8 barrels of it. And I said, well, we'll just leave it in there and see how it turns out. And so then we had a guy come that wanted to start a whiskey brand, and he wanted to source his whiskey from us. And I said, well, I got these barrels, these double oak signature barrels, and he made a deposit on them. And his deal fell through. And so the boys go, what are we going to do with this whiskey? I said, well, let's do a label and bottle it. And that's how the double oak signature came out. It was just me freaking out.
And I think that's a perfect segue to try that double oak signature. And it's a gold winner, by the way. So.
Oh, yeah, it's a gold winner. This is our best seller here at the distillery.
So if I can, I was gonna say, if I can give you a little story here about it was funny you mentioned Virginia. I was kind of bragging to my friends a little bit that I was meeting with one of the founders of Ragged Branch, and I showed the bottles. And one of my friends, and I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I still have a lot of communication with my high school classmates. And when I showed the bottle, it's on my Facebook wall. Someone from Miami replied, yeah, a client from Virginia introduced me to that, and now I'm able to find it in Publix. What a great find. So completely random, disconnected from this. You guys are making a name.
Well, thank you.
So are you making enough volume for Publix?
We have 15 pallets of bourbon come ready every month.
Okay.
And just to give the audience an idea, I mean, how many bottles, cases are we talking there?
That's 480 bottles per pallet. So it's a stretch, you know. We're going to make it. We're getting ready to expand, but Publix is a good customer for us. I mean, I'm really happy. I worked on that for 2 years. So,
I mean, being a Virginia boy, there's nothing better than walking into a Florida Publix and seeing, you know, a hometown bourbon sitting there on the shelf and being as good as it is, and I mean, holding its own. And so kudos to you, Alex.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
And I think a lot of people don't realize, you know, they always think about Kentucky. All bourbon is coming from Kentucky, and it's not. Bourbon's coming from anywhere in the United States. But, you know, Virginia, we're just like Kentucky. We got the humidity. We got the cold. It has a great climate for that bourbon to seep in and out of those charred oak containers. So, you know, kudos to Virginia. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, Virginia's not a very friendly state to make whiskey in. You know, they try to, you know, take every penny you have every time they can. But that's where we live, and that's where we have farm ground. You know, so that's what we do. But you're right. You know, we're at the same latitude line as Kentucky, and you know, our grain, I mean, a lot of the flavor in this glass is coming from the grain that we grow right here, you know? And I always say our grain has more soul than the damn Midwest grain. You know, they're growing it they're growing so much of it so fast, you know, that they're adding to the soil. And, you know, this Piedmont soil is different, you know, so.
You know, when the first time I opened your weeded bottle, usually, you know, you do the smell test, you know, and what do you smell? You smell the wheat, you smell the different spices. But, you know, growing up in Virginia, you smell running through the fields and that fresh cut grass. And I mean, it just takes you to as a child growing up and running through the fields and fresh air. I mean, you know, it was probably one of my first times that, you know, when I described a bourbon, it wasn't, well, I smell spices and caramels. I mean, I was like, you know, I smell me running through the fields as a little kid, and, you know, a flashback. I mean, it's like home in a bottle, you know? So
yeah.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
I think, you know, you said it right, that terroir, you know, that great soil that was once so good for growing tobacco is so good for so many other things. And you just get that mineral, you get that earthiness that comes through, you get that sweetness off the nose as well. So it's good stuff. Can't wait to visit you. Oh
yeah, you'll love it here. This is great. You ought to give me a heads up. You can stay in the house up here.
Yeah, you heard it. We heard it, right? Well, we're there.
Our barrel selection. But anyway, to the double oak signature. So it was a pleasant mistake. And then we went ahead and did it bottled and bond. Hell, I didn't even know what bottled and bond meant. And then when I found out what it meant, when I saw it on the bottle and I found out what it meant, I was like, all our recipes can be bottled and bond. I mean, we don't source a drop. We made every drop right down here, running 7 days a week, 10-hour days. You know, we ran on Christmas Eve, you know, New Year's Eve. So,
Alex, I have a sweet spot for bottle and bond bourbons. I think that is, I mean, I think it's a whole different league, you know, to be bottle and bonded. And, you know, and at 100 proof, it's like a sweet spot. And knowing that it's made in Virginia under one roof, one distillery, and exactly 100 proof. And you know, it really sets your distillery far apart from other distilleries, because once you put out a bottle and bond, you're doing things and you're doing things right.
Yeah, that's my whole motto is do it right and do it right now. Let's don't play around. So,
Alex, I'm not going to ask you to pick a favorite because I know these are all your kids, but I have to say, just for those who are watching, this double oak signature has got to probably be my favorite tonight. It's such a nice balance of sweet and spicy. It's a little bit of that leather wood oakiness that comes through, but then you kind of round it out with a maple syrup and vanilla. For those that just like, flavor profiles, I just want to give people an idea of what we're tasting here, but really, really solid bourbon.
It's same deal. It's got all that flavor on the front, and it's not burning you on the back. It's it's just very pleasant to drink.
There's a genuineness to this. There's no pretense to it. It is when you say, I'm drinking a bourbon, you don't have to explain after you take the first sip of this. It is what it is. Like I said, there's nothing, it's not hiding anything. It doesn't apologize for what it is. And it might actually be better than the signature. And I was pretty high on the signature. I've had a couple more sips of this one. Hopefully it's not the signature talking,
but it's the same juice. It's the same juice. It's the signature juice that what came 4 in a 53. It got dumped out, and then the same day it got dumped into a 4 char and went another year. Went through all 4 seasons. And so it's the exact same juice as the signature, and but it has a barrel. What you're tasting is what a 4 char barrel does to bourbon. You tasted it by going from the signature to this, and it adds those really nice sweet notes on the front of it. That 4 char, so.
That's what I get. I get a lot more sweetness on that first sip of the double oak than the regular signature, but I tell you, they're all great. Yeah. So I really hope that everyone watching tonight goes out to our local Publix, or if they're in Virginia or wherever they are, seek it out. We did share the Potomac Wines website, so people can order some, check it out, have your own little Ragged Branch tasting, and definitely when they're in the beautiful area of Charlottesville, Virginia, we should definitely look you up and check out and do a distillery tour.
Oh yeah, we have a mixologist up here that makes these crazy cocktails. He makes one. He cooks walnuts. I don't know what he cooks them in, but he cooks walnuts all day, maybe 2 days, and then he does a walnut old fashioned. And I mean, it's fall in a glass. It's so amazing.
Speaking of fall, that's a perfect time to go up to the mountains of Virginia. I tell you what, that sounds wonderful. Can you get that recipe and share it with us? That's awesome.
I don't know. That's a good question.
No, well, I think we all just need to take a road trip and check it out.
Yeah, I don't know anybody has the patience to make that walnut bitters.
So, Alex, are you doing the barrel program?
Oh yeah, we do we have an awesome barrel program. I love the barrel program. It's the best part of this whole deal.
Let me run this video real quick.
At Ragged Branch, we have a special barrel program. Single barrels that were selected by individuals, and we designed the label for them, and then we send it off to wherever they were. Every bottle behind me is unique in flavor because of its age, its position in the rick barn, or its proof. So we take pride in being very flexible in our barrel program. This is a wheated bourbon, aged 4 years in a single barrel, 53-gallon barrel. This is our double oaks wheated. This is the same juice as this, except we took it out of a 53-gallon barrel after 4 years, put it in another barrel, and went another year. So we call this our double oak wheated. This is our signature recipe. This has a rye flavor component. This is your bourbon drinker's bourbon. This is also aged for 4.5 years in a 53-gallon barrel. It's my personal favorite. This is our straight rye whiskey. We end up making this, we started making this one year because we had a bunch of leftover rye, and we called David Pickerel, and he gave us the recipe over the phone. And this is 87% rye. It's also been aged for 4.5 years. In our process at Ragged Branch, we pride ourselves on being sustainable. We have less than 5 gallons of water waste a day. We grow all the crop, we make the whiskey, then we take the residue mash and feed it to our cattle. There's so much time and so much love that goes into this. And all of us are best buddies that work here. 7 days a week, 10-hour days to put this out. And when we taste this, we are so proud, and we want everybody to know how hard it was to make this and how we didn't cut one corner. We've done it all old school, and we love this product, and we just want everybody else to love it too.
That's a good video.
Virginia's for lovers, and I tell you, we're all falling in love with your bourbon right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, the barrel program is fun. You know, Masano's out of Mississippi did a couple barrels this year, and Aquista Pace in New Orleans. You know, when they come up and just the experience, even if you didn't pick a barrel, the experience. So typically, people show up here at around lunchtime, and we cook them those Ragged Branch cheeseburgers that just blow your mind. And then we go down there and we try barrels. We might try 5 barrels. We might try 25 barrels. You know, a lot of times when we're doing the barrel picks, I'm spot checking barrels. You know, so you know that's what I like to do. While you're doing it, we might as well do this too. And the people who are picking a barrel seem to enjoy it. So they pick up. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I would imagine they would.
Yeah. When they pick a barrel, the right barrel, I told them, everybody's nervous about picking the right barrel. I mean, the right barrel hits you in the face. You know it. And you always come back to it. And after you get that right barrel, you're always comparing every other barrel you taste to that barrel. And then you just know it's the right barrel. And then you narrow it down to 3, and you do it, you know, blind, and then you end up picking that barrel. So everybody's very happy about that selection. And then we work on a label, you know, and that's a lot of fun because you could do a bright pink label if you wanted to. You know, I don't care. You know, you put anything on it you want. And then we ship it out to the distributor, and you get it. You know, if it's in Virginia, I can give a little discount on a bottle price because we get more sold out of the distillery. But going anywhere else, you know, we do a UPC code for it for that family name or whoever picked it, a store name. And I love it. It's fun. So the experience is you show up here lunchtime, you get a cheeseburger. We taste a bunch of barrels. And I have a chef that is good as any chef I'd ever been around. He comes up here and he takes our beef and he makes an incredible dinner. We have it. You have drinks at our bar, and then you stay upstairs in the tasting room. It's I think the guy at Mazzano's in Mississippi, which is he's kind of known for his barrel picks. He goes, "This is the best one I've ever gone to."
Yeah, the availability next week will be up there.
We do.
I'm sold. I'm
So
sold.
I heard you didn't do very good on your fishing trip.
Oh, we did good. That was dumb luck. They say you catch the most fish when you're the most hungover, so it happened to be the case.
Yeah. So tell our viewers real quick, just when they come there, what to expect. I mean, can they do a tasting? Can they view the property? Tell us kind of a wrap up.
Well, typically the visitor drives up to the tasting room. They come in, they can do a flight of the bourbons. They can pick the bourbons they want. They could just do cocktails if they like. And when it's not COVID, there's a fireplace in the house, and you sit around the fire. But most of the time, people want to go outside. I mean, we've kind of got to the point where we have a bunch of sunset people show up here because that patio faces west. They come up and have a bourbon cocktail and watch the sunset over the mountains, and then they hit the road to grab some beef and go home and cook it. But you can buy it. We always have some special release up here. When I hear people say, wow, this is awesome, it feels like somebody's home, and that's a big deal. That makes me feel good. And I mean, we're all about the hospitality. I mean, we want you to feel like family when you show up here.
That's great. Well, I think just from looking at some of the comments on Facebook, I think we just planned a whole tour group. So there might be, I don't know how many you can sleep up there, or if you could, have a good bed and breakfast or hotel down the road. But I think we've got a whole party coming.
Oh yeah, bring your tents.
Sounds great.
Yeah, but yeah, we're all about it. I mean, I like in that video. I mean, we're here 7 days a week, 10-hour days. It's a brotherhood. We don't cut any corners. We don't make anything white. We don't source anything. We're too dumb to figure that out.
Well, I'm just speaking personally. You're exactly the kind of entrepreneur that I want to support, Alex.
Thank you.
We want to support the guy that's doing it right and has the love and the passion for it, and it's not cutting corners and putting out a great product, and is a good back to the community. So you're doing a lot of great sustainable work there and a great process, but grain to glass there. So, I mean, no one else is doing it better. That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Quick question for you. About how many barrels do you have aging right now?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's like 1,700 or something, 1,800. We're planning. It'll take me 2 years to do it. We have this 500-gallon pot still with a column combo, and we run it a little differently than most. We run a spirit run every day, and that way we have mash for the cattle every day. And so I wanted to do, and I don't know how to run anything else. I mean, we learn on this. This is what we're going to do. So we're going to put in a 2,000-gallon system, the exact same setup. We'll make the same cuts, and I'm just building a barn right next to the other barn. And so we'll end up making 4 times what we make now. So I think we'll build 3 more rick barns to do that.
So I'm kind of a hobbyist cook myself, and I have a quick question. Have you noticed any difference in the flavor of the beef since you started feeding them the mash?
Oh yeah. I was worried about it. My dad was the worst cattle finisher on earth. It was the toughest beef you ever tried. So when we first got started making whiskey, I had 62 steers, and we're just dumping the mash out to them, because we're figuring this whole process out. It's a little stressful. Every day you have 500 gallons of this feed. we're just dumping it out there. And these steers ended up getting, big, but they weren't finished yet. They had their bone and they looked pretty good, but they needed, something starchy. So I ended up throwing some rolled corn into the mash and then some hay in that big mixer you saw in the video, and feeding it to the steers. And I don't know if you've ever tasted mash, and they call it sour mash for a reason, because it tastes like a sour candy.
Yeah.
And so I was a little wigged out thinking, man, this beef's going to be horrible. I mean, eating sour candy all day, So I ended up working out, selling it in Pennsylvania to a big processing plant, these 62 animals. And I ended up getting them fat, send them out. 75% of the truck graded prime up there. I was like, okay. And then
That was my question. If you saw any marbling.
Yeah. 2 of the steers couldn't fit on the truck. So I took them to the local processor. And the guy comes back and says, and he shows up at 9 a.m. with a ribeye, a strip, and some hamburger. And he goes, Alex, you got to see this beef. And so we fire up the grill and start cooking it, and it was unbelievable. So, it was just a lucky coincidence that we had good beef, and we sold it in restaurants around here for a while, but the restaurants are so cheap that we couldn't do it.
So
But
Alex,
it's
when we
good.
come, we need to make sure we bring plenty of boxes for our bourbon, and then, or maybe you'll provide some, but plenty of coolers for our beef, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we always have a lot of beef. We for the tasting room, we process a steer every week. We sell a whole steer a week out of the tasting room. It's like beef wars up here. I mean, you got guys showing up when the truck shows up to get all the fillets. It's crazy. But it really is different. And I like to explain it. And it must be the acidity in the mash that does it. But a lot of the steaks, say you go to a really nice restaurant, you get a filet. Well, the filet is really tender, but some of the beef flavor is muted. Well, when you eat one of our fillets, it has that real big beef flavor that you get like in a sirloin, but it still has that tenderness as a filet. So it's a real beef flavor.
All you really got to add is like a little salt and pepper, and that's
it. Yeah. Hell, I put a tri-tip down there we had a tri-tip that delaminated the vacuum seal, and it was been down in the refrigerator for like a week and a half. And I'm like, what the hell are we doing with this? And they said it delaminated. So I threw it on the smoker today. I didn't have anything else to do except watch the still run. And it's just excellent. It's just excellent beef. I mean, I've been asked to take the beef to the next level, but we can't get away. Our job is to make whiskey.
Yeah.
Our cattle is mass disposal system, so we're not getting all beef crazy, but it's a fun little side thing.
But the nice thing is, like, most distilleries are having to ship their excess off to farms, so for the pigs and the cows and so forth. And the nice thing is you have everything right there. And so I mean, that's the nice thing about how your setup is. I mean,
yeah. For me, there's this, you have, and we're just a little distillery. We have 500 gallons of it every day, 7 days a week. And for me, I like having cattle anyway. Once you have cattle, you kind of always have cattle. But you can't depend on somebody to come get. Like, it snowed today. And the guy calls and he says, oh, I can't get there, Alex. And I'm like, forget it. We got there, and we'll do it ourselves. And I just can't have that extra layer of stress worrying about some guy picking up mash. We'll just feed it.
And I think that's the signature behind your brand, because of how hard you work and everything that you're putting into your distillery for your brand and your bourbons and I mean, it's just a great product. It's hard work. I mean, it's not easy. I grew up on a cattle farm. You have to have a choice: 4 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. I mean, that's the schedule for dairy farming,
Yeah.
And for you guys, I mean, it's not like you can have a day off. Cows don't take a day off, and someone's got to be there and to deliver. And so, kudos to you. And I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. I love to see your product in Publix. When I walk in there and seeing a Virginia bottle, made from home, and knowing how much hard work it is, and it's so good to see. So let's kind of close this out. I know we've kind of run over a little bit. Let's kind of close out with everybody. PJ.
I really enjoyed this. It's crazy. I know that these are going to be some of my go-to gifts for friends in the area, for family. I'm going to have this on hand when I go on vacation. Just let me buy a few more bottles before you raise the price, because this is definitely probably one of the best bang for the bucks that I have ever tasted.
Publix won't let you raise the price. Don't worry.
Yeah, I echo PJ. Alex, I was going to ask you, just again for the viewers out there, we're drinking some really fine bourbon tonight. Can you share what the price point is if people are looking to order this online or go to our local Publix?
I don't even know I think it's $36.99 in Publix.
Yeah, that's what it is here. But the double oaks, what can we get?
The double oaks, we sell the double oaks at the distillery for $57, but at Potomac they sell them for $50. So if you buy 2 bottles, it's cheaper than coming to the distillery.
Okay, but we still want to come to the distillery because there's some good beef there.
I just found that out like 2 hours ago. So yeah, it's a better deal to buy it online.
Well, thanks for that. See, he's an honest guy too, hard worker, and he's honest.
Once that pallet leaves here, man, it's owned by somebody else. So.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Can I put in a special request that you save us a couple bottles of that Virginia wine finished?
Oh yeah, I will.
That'd be great. Well, thank you. It's been an honor, Alex.
Thank you.
Alice, we're going to close this out, but hey, buddy, I want to say thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. And, kudos to you for everything that you're doing in Virginia. I mean, I don't think people realize how much hard work it is to do what you're doing from grain to bottle. And I mean, to grow it, to source it, to produce it, to sell it, and, there's not a day off that you really do have anymore, because you kind of set this in place, and, either you're making it, either the cow's got to be fed or something. So, with that said, I just want to say kudos to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for everybody on Facebook for joining us. And please watch this continue. And we're just going to close this out with a little video. But
thank you.
And cheers.
Thank you. Drink all you can.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.